Well, with all these legends out here and the meta starting to get defined, this is still going to be a long ways off from when, of course, this game is going to be released as it is. But how do you go about trying to figure out which legend that you're even going to play? I mean, that's going to be one of the hardest parts. And then on top of that, trying to even learn the deck can be pretty difficult as well. Well, guys, we are going to be diving into champions and legends and things of that nature to be able to see how to possibly play those decks and what you can expect with those deck lists. Now, of course, these aren't going to necessarily be optimized. We haven't necessarily had a whole lot of tournaments yet. We do have a big one. That's a 128-player tournament that is going to be from the Piltover Archives themselves. That is going to be on Friday. So that's going to be something to look forward to. It's already past Friday. Sorry, guys. We'll have a video about that because I'll be casting that as well. So a lot of really exciting stuff coming your way, guys. Let's go ahead and jump into Master Yi and how he could possibly take a great twist into this meta. All of that and more starting right now. So, for all things deck construction and otherwise, go ahead and head to Piltover Archive, one of the best places you can go to be able to see all the different decks that are already created, but also with that to be able to save your own decks, build your own, and be able to easily export and even print proxies if you want to try them out in person. Piltover Archive is where it is. Not a sponsor, but they're still really great. Love these guys, and they do an absolutely great job. It's been really great getting to know their community as well. Really great group of guys, devs that really care about this game. And again, Piltover Archive is going to be really great because if you do need to see any legends up here, awesome. And if you do need to deep dive into maybe something down here, you can. Biggest thing too, you can go most liked, see what's maybe a bit more, available and seen. This one was updated 3 months ago by Willow. He's made more at that point too. This is just one of the first ones that was ever made on Piltover. And whatnot, and same with even like the most viewed as well. And so even updated 9 days ago, which is pretty awesome. So really helpful stuff there. But we are going to be looking into Master Yi. Now, again, take this with a grain of salt here, but still going to be something really helpful to dive into. Now, Master Yi's ability is pretty dang impressive. Now, the caveat to that is that you get +2 might, but only when you are defending. So that's going to be one of the hardest parts here in the dynamic that you need to figure out for yourself. Because how do you go about defending, getting onto the battlefield first, especially when going second? That can be one of the more difficult things here. And rightfully so. But once you are able to go ahead and get onto that battlefield and get under control, Master Yi can be a pretty devastating deck to have to go against, especially against decks like Victor, and things of that nature, because of the abilities that you're able to have. You're able to add +2 to your units as well to make it to where they're getting +4 with Master Yi's ability and the card ability. A lot of scary stuff with that, and so really fun to be able to play that. 6 and 6 is a pretty good divide as well. I would maybe go 7 and 5, but not necessarily needed. And of course, check out all the different decks that Master Yi has had so far. This has been the main one that I've been playing. Now, Grove of the God Willow, really good card because when you hold here, you draw one. And the biggest thing that Master Yi needs is those cards in hand to be able to buff your units. Then, of course, with that as well, the Dreaming Tree, which the first time you choose a friendly unit with a spell here each turn, draw one. That's very well going to be something that you could utilize because your opponent might not have a lot of spells that target your own units in this case. And so they very well might not be drawing a whole ton of cards. And then, of course, one of the best ones in this case, if you can hold it, is Fortified Position because it will automatically add Shield 2, which adds 2 might to your unit that is holding there, and to a unit. So if you have a lot of units there, then that can even replace the Master Yi in that case and go about that route. But even still, if you only have the one unit there, then you can go ahead and add 4 right off the bat, and then a lot of these units are going to be going ahead and adding some themselves. We have Shield +1 with the Toro. We have +2 when they're attacking or defending alone. And then we also have Sunlit Guardian, which is a 3 might, Shield +1, and a tank. So some really fun stuff there as well. And of course, only one Master Yi. I'm almost tempted to run a second one because if you lose the one, it can be a little bit difficult because just by the fact that he's able to come in ready can be such a huge help in getting him to get control of the game where you might be falling a little bit behind. But I mean, he has a ganking ability, rightfully so. That's exactly what his character is all about. And so pretty fun to be able to do that there. And he also enters ready, which is going to be one of the biggest things for him. And once he holds, he is tough because, I mean, trying to get above that 8 can be really difficult to be able to do. Defy is going to be one of the better cards in this deck as well. The ability to go ahead and counter your opponent's spells. Now, of course, that's going to be one of the biggest things different from like Magic the Gathering or other card games in general, because it is only spells that are able to be countered. And in this case, it's going to be spells that cost no more than 4 and no more than 1 recycled, or 1 power in this case. And so really interesting there as well. So if there's 2, and there's a couple of things that have like 2, maybe not necessarily a whole ton of spells, but you get the idea. One of the biggest bread and butters here of this deck is going to be Charm. Being able to move an enemy unit. Now, that's going to be one of the best things that you have going for you. Because if you have, for example, even Master Yi, heck, even if you have a Poro, someone thinks that their unit is safe, and you're like, they play their Victor out. They think it's safe. They're going to get a lot of tokens going in their way. No, you're going to go ahead and just play Charm, move that Victor into the battlefield. You then get the buff of the shield because a battle occurs. Then you get the +2 from Master Yi as well. You're going 5 against 4. It gets taken out. Really fun stuff right there to be able to get that going. Now, with that being said as well, there's going to be a lot of different boosts as well with that. On guard, discipline, give a unit +2, then draw 1. And that's really cool too, because you can get that to activate after you draw the 1. If the chain happens to still be going, or if the next chain starts, you might have an answer there in that case as well. Really cool help right there. Challenge to be able to, again, control the board state. If you have, for example, like Carnivorous Snapvine, you can take out something that's kind of dangerous in the backfield and see how that ends up going. Now, the Hourglass is going to be one of your best friends as well, especially because the next time a friendly unit would die, kill this instead and recall that unit exhausted. So it just automatically goes back to your base. Boom. You are under control and in a great spot there in that case. Now, Wielder of Water, like we said, adds +2 whether attacking or defending. Great way if you're going second to be able to take something. Now, of course, this could struggle against things that are able to take multiple battlefields come turn 2 and then reinforce those battlefields. That's going to be one of the best ways to counter this deck early on. But that's why it's like turn 2, you're going to be going Wielder of Water. Turn 3, probably a Carnivorous Snapvine to be able to get things moving as well. And Sona is going to be one of your best helps in this case, which is why we're running 3 of them. Because go ahead and take a battlefield in this case and add Sona to the battlefield after the fact. And then at the end of the turn, you get to ready 4 runes and get that going. So really handy stuff. Now, the reason why I have something like Primal Strength in this deck is because, again, one of the hardest things that we are going to be seeing here is that it's going to be really difficult potentially to try to take, battlefields when you are in the process of holding them, or when you're in the process of trying to build up your base and things of that nature. That can be very difficult. And so this will give you the +7 that you need, potentially charge in, take it, or more so if you're going against something like Kaisa, and she's dealing 6 damage to a unit that you really need to hold the base, because Kaisa doesn't necessarily have a whole lot of really big units to try to attack in with. You can Primal Strength to add +7 so that you're able to hold it as well. Now, Kiana is going to be really good with that, because when you conquer, you can draw 1 or channel a rune, Exhausted, and that can really help get you ramped up to try to get Master Yi into your game, continue to devastate the board. Now, Blitzcrank. I'm iffy on him right now. He does a good job, but he kind of counters what Master Yi needs to do. But if you find yourself being in a pinch, Blitzcrank can be really good in that case. Just because you're able to automatically grab a unit, pull them over to you. He has tank. You're able to go ahead and either trade in with him. You're almost okay trading in with him. 5 for that isn't necessarily the worst thing. But you can deal a lot of damage to be able to, take out something that might be a little bit dangerous. A battle, of course, is incurred at that point, so you can, possibly add some boosts to those units and see how it goes. But Blitzcrank, I don't know. Maybe Misfortune. I'm still trying to find like a good secondary card in this case. maybe even something a bit more like Carnivorous Snapvine to help out with that. Now, with the side decks, Unifying Unyielding Spirit, that's going to be really helpful to try to prevent all spell damage and ability damage even as well. So Carnivorous Snapvine, when it comes in, it wouldn't necessarily be able to deal damage in that case, which can be really helpful. Then, Sabotage. You choose an opponent, they reveal their hand, choose one non-unit card from it, and recycle that card. There's going to be like Darius decks. There's going to be Volibear decks where they have, the Auroras or whatever it might be. Even going against Kaisa as well. If you can go ahead and clear out her shields or her spells, her spells and everything, then you're going to be able to do so really well with that and see how that is going to go. Then, of course, with that as well, we have Fury of the Blades, mainly as a victor or token response, again, going against Darius or things of that nature as well. Very helpful to try to just slow them down, especially as they have a lot of units out. You can really hinder them in that case and try to get control of the game state. So with that, we're going to be looking through some gameplay of Master Yi, and this first one with Annie actually was a pretty intense and fun one that we ended up having with them. Something pretty close of a match to look forward to here. And again, a pretty good hand starting out for sure. You at least get the turn 1 play, maybe not something later on turn 3. Usually you do like to have a 5 cost to be able to play on the following, turn 2, turn 3 kind of thing. But in this case, this is still a pretty good start for us, something that we're wanting to look for as we continue to develop the field and things of that nature. Now, of course, when going against Annie, we don't necessarily know a whole lot about Annie, at least in the deck lists at this point. We haven't seen a whole lot in studying her, or her making an impact in the meta just yet. But after this game, she was able to have a pretty decent amount of removal, which did make it pretty difficult. And also playing someone with Accelerate was pretty good to be able to get things going with that. Great answer right there. And then also the shield +2. Now, this top deck of Charm is going to be one of the biggest reasons why this is such a great card to have in the deck. Now, yes, you are going to be recycling 1, which really sucks when you're only at, 2 at that point. But at the same time, it's still not necessarily the worst kind of move to be able to have in that case. And so something to really be able to watch out for and to get done here as well. And so then we're going to be able to move in. Nothing hidden on that location anymore. If there was, and we're able to take that, no big deal, be able to get things going. Now, of course, unfortunately, as well, they do have a way to bounce back that card to our hand with Gust. Really good card as well with that, but we're going to be able to pump our guy up to 4 in that case, and also on top of that, draw a card, which is going to be a great response. We won't be able to necessarily play our counter in this case, unfortunately. We don't have the 1 green to recycle, which is kind of interesting because, usually you have a little bit more than that. Usually I'm a little bit low on the orange, not on the blue. So kind of funny that this is what ended up happening with us, but that's okay. So right now, though, Annie is in a little bit of trouble right now, down to 2 in this case, going to be going up to 4. Going to need some answers there. I do have the opportunity to hide the Hourglass. We don't necessarily need to, though, especially just with one of our 2 costs. Is it vital for us to necessarily hold this? Yeah, it could be, but bouncing back a 2 cost with especially all the spells that Annie has isn't going to necessarily be something that we want to, try to hold, especially when we don't even have a counter to activate. That's what we're more so wanting. And for those of you who don't know, the other battlefield in this case is going to be giving everyone 1 additional victory point or point at the start of the game. And that's why it's right now 2 to 3. So it's a little bit quicker in that case. And so being able to then go in and switch those characters when you go ahead and play him, very good. Able to get everything out. We're in a little bit of a difficult situation. This isn't going to be anything that we're able to rush in. We're not going to necessarily be able to get anything moving either as well. And so they're, of course, going to be able to go up to 4 and then even 5 as well when they are able to go up to their next upkeep. And so that's something that's going to be, a little disheartening to be able to have to face against, especially because sometimes it can be really tough to have the comeback. But with Master Yi, the nicest part is that you at least have the card draw, and Master Yi himself actually does come in readied up, which can be a really big game changer as you go into these things. And we have We're going to have the runes next turn to be able to get Master Yi out. The only problem with that is that it uses literally all of our runes, so we don't have anything to really buff our opponents. And of course, now they have that spell in their hand to be able to deal that damage to unit, and that really could take out either of our 2 units in that case, which is tough because they only get the buffs when, or the buff to their might when they go ahead and are in an attack. And so there's a hidden card right there as well. We still have a counter, which is why, I'm a little bit more okay in this case with maybe, sending something in to see what we are maybe able to do. The +2 location or battlefield in this case is going to be so difficult to try to get around. But we're going to go ahead and activate Master Yi. We're going to send 1 into the, because of the hidden card, we're just going to send 1. Take it 1 at a time. One of our cheap guys, see if they even want to necessarily go ahead and activate. If they do, great. If not, perfectly fine. So there they go. They've gone ahead and activated that. Looks like they're going to be switching places with Annie. Awesome. That's perfectly fine. And now we have all the information that we need to be able to get this taken care of, which is awesome. So we can then go ahead and take out 1. Annie, of course, is still going to be there. And with that, they still have, of course, the 2 runes that we have to worry about. And so it's a little bit intimidating on what they could possibly react to here, because that can be something that really makes it difficult for us to understand what we need to do in this case. And again, I'm sorry about this. I was recording this at work. Don't tell my boss. But with that being said, now they have the Annie here. They have 2 that they could potentially do. There's no battlefield effect, and so the Master Yi moving in necessarily wouldn't be such a bad move. If we go ahead and move in the water unit in this case, then we would be able to go up 4-3. But the tough part with that as well is if they do have any reactions, then we're in trouble. But, we decide that we're going to go ahead and risk it, because if we can go ahead and take out this battlefield, or take this battlefield, and then go ahead and trade in on the other battlefield, then that's 3 units gone on their end, and only 1 unit gone on our end. And especially with them only having 3 cards in hand, that's a pretty great thing. So that already told us a lot. They did wait a little bit, so there's a possibility that they are waiting for a reaction here. Now, the thing about the hourglass and hiding it, that doesn't necessarily mean that, or doesn't necessarily mean, I need to figure out the timing on that, if you are able to activate even on a different battlefield in this case. But in this case, I don't know if I'm necessarily able to activate the hourglass at this point during reactions, and something that I definitely need to research a little bit more, because depending on how this ruling actually ends up going for us, let me know in the comments below if there actually is gameplay or, correct moves here in this case. And so, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this ends up going for us, but it's going to be a little bit difficult. Now, of course, we're not going to be activating that response. They luckily don't have any responses as well, which is pretty telling in that case, but it's going to be, at least a 3-2 kind of twist. We'll still be able to save, our wielder of water as well. And so that's going to be just a full on switch. It's going to be, 3-5 still, which is a little bit scary, something that you don't necessarily want to have to face against, because, sometimes that final 2 is going to be, pretty good here in order to manage. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this ends up going. And of course, they are going to be playing that. And the difficult thing with this as well is I need to go ahead and activate, and I forget to. That is a mistriggered on my part. And I was like, wait, and it was because it was because it was on the on Pixelborn instead of like TCG Player, or not TCG Player, sorry, TCG Arena or Tabletop Simulator, that I totally missed that in general, just because sometimes it's hard to highlight over and actually get it activated. But still, this was a great top deck for us. Again, the Snapvine is going to be doing absolute work for us. It's now 6-3. We have a little bit of an uphill battle to do. But at the same time, the nice part is Annie only has 2 cards in hand, and that is definitely going to be in our benefit, because if we can really get over to the new battlefield in time, and I mean, getting that going is a great play, unfortunately, especially because now it is going to be 6-6, but we do have the buffs that we need to be able to do so. Still, though, drawing that card is going to be vital as well, and we need to take this. If we do not take this, then we are going to be in absolute trouble here. Now, Sona is going to be a great card in general, just especially to try to get those reactions going on your off turn in this case. And so we are still going to buff. They, again, have 2 runes that they are able to activate as they see fit, but we also do have the counter as well. So whatever they play, as long as it is under the cost of 4 and less than 1 or less recycle, we're good. Now, Fight or Flight in this case is going to be a great thing to counter as well. Now they have no runes to be able to do. We have the response in this case. And on the plus side, we still have the 4 runes that we're able to utilize to be able to get out Sona in this case and get reactions taken care of. Now, the debate here is if you're going to be going ahead and reinforcing your battlefield, especially with all the spells that Annie could potentially have. If you want to have 2 units there and forego Master Yi's ability, that's definitely smart to do. But at the same time, yeah, it looks like they're going to be spending everything on Darius here. Great move, 7/7 in this case, but I mean, and then the buff on that as well. That's just going to be a straight trade. I don't know necessarily if this Annie necessarily knew that this was going to be a direct trade, or if that's even what they necessarily wanted, especially with 1 card in hand. I'm going to say no. And in reality, if they would have taken the other battlefield, it could have been very difficult for me to then take the battlefield, and that very well could have been their game as well. And so, tough to say. Unfortunately, yeah, ended up missing a lot. Now they only have 1 card in hand. The both of us very well could have had some misplays in this case, unfortunately. But we have the unit answers, whereas they, very well might be having just too many spells in hand that they might not be able to get these answers going. And so it's going to be tough to see how this is going to unravel here. But yeah, we're just going to go ahead, test the water, see if there's anything they have. Again, 7 runes that are ready. So we're just going to move 1 in. If he ends up giving us that and going to 7, cool. If not, we can, and he has a reaction, we can then move Sona in to be able to do the same thing. But again, 2 cards in hand. I'm not necessarily too worried about that, but I'm still going to be cautious enough on moving in and whatnot. And so that should be pretty much game. There's not going to be a way for them to really unlock both of these. But even if they do, we're going to be keeping both back. So if they have spells or abilities that they need to activate in order to clear out both of the battlefields, we have 2 characters that will then be able to take these battlefields back as well. And so again, he is going to be playing everything to be able to get things powered up in this case and trying to take all of this. And so going over that, it's going to be 10-8 in this case. Unfortunately, too short. No buffs, no cards in hand. But, that's okay. We still, though, have the ability now to potentially get up to, 8 in that case as well. And so even with the shield, we're still going to be able to beat them by 1 unless they are able to take the other battlefield. We got this, Even if they do take the other battlefield, I don't see too many answers that they might have to be able to get this going. So, I mean, that's still a really good thing. Again, though, that's kind of reinforcing my field as well. And now they still have 3 left. And so it's like, well, we technically don't have control or anything. So we can play Kiana to the other battlefield, technically, and even be able to draw a card. That's going to be an option for us. We don't opt for that. We just opt to completely take the battlefield with our full and all of our answers in this case to take down Darius. No responses in hand, luckily. And really, they almost needed to take out Sona because, I mean, giving us a card, it could be a very big difference maker here in this case. And, we'll take a card at this point. And it being the Hourglass, I mean, come on. That's just pretty awesome. And so, yep, there we go. And that is going to be the game. So, I mean, again, another really great gameplay there. Misplays, we're still learning, of course, but Annie was pretty good. If Annie was able to maintain her card draw a little bit better, then there would be a very good chance that you'd be able to get that going. And really just devastate the board on that. But great gameplay. Let's go on to the next one. Alrighty, so we are going against lamb, not salmon. So, interesting. With that being said, though, again, we're going to be kind of going about this a little bit more hesitantly. This is us going second. Sometimes second can be a little bit more beneficial because, again, if you do have the Sunlit Guardian, that can be really good. We also have a turn 5 play. That is one of the benefits to going second. Otherwise, you do want the Poro in hand when going first because you're going to be able to get his shield +1, and then getting him to the battlefield will give Master Yi as ability to go ahead and give +2 when defending as well. So, I mean, going against a 5, that's a little tough. And it looks like, yeah, we got that battlefield to be able to do so as well. So that's going to be a really good play. Now, this is, of course, going to be a little bit quicker of a game. This already kind of gave up a little bit. I don't know whether to misplays or I just devastated their board enough that there was no responses. Now, the one thing that I do like about Master Yi's deck is that a lot of his early low-cost units have literally 0 recycling that you need to be able to do, which is just absolutely awesome. And so now we're, of course, going to move over and take, and we have Blitzcrank. This is one of the times where Blitzcrank can be really good. In this case, we're going to take that. And Blitzcrank's tank is going to be the answer that we absolutely love here as well. Just go ahead and grab Ahri. Now, both of these characters have tank, unfortunately. That's the thing that I don't necessarily like. And Ahri's -2 is going to be a pretty big factor in this as well. And I should have buffed my other guy instead because he's at least going to stay. Blitzcrank can go ahead and die, with the Ahri trade, but because he's just going to be disappearing, and we're missing out on a point in this case. And that's my fault on the misplay right there. That's something that, I needed to make the adjustment on as well. And that's the thing, too, with this game, is there is just a whole different kind of dynamic when you're trying to take battlefields and when you're trying to get through, these games. It can be very difficult to be able to do so and know the correct plays, because normally it is literally just my creatures and cards versus your creatures and cards. But then when you're going ahead and adding the battlefield that you need to also hold and maintain, it can be tough. It can be really tough to try to judge those kinds of give and takes that you necessarily need. And so it's very interesting to be able to see how this is then going to go, because you can find yourself in a very difficult predicament if you're even not bringing units back to your base instead of keeping them onto the battlefield, and understanding that balance and dynamic that you normally don't need to worry about in card games. And that's something that I absolutely love about this, is it just adds a whole different dynamic that is just so fun to be able to experience in this game. And now, of course, our opponent knows that we have a Blitzcrank in hand, doesn't know that we have 2. Blitzcrank is still kind of a little bit difficult to go ahead and get rid of as well. Now, of course, the nice part about Sona in this case is that we do not have tank on her. So if we go ahead and buff Sona, or if we go ahead and buff Blitzcrank, we're going to be fine. And that's going to be the thing as well. Having 2 Ahris out on the field, I mean, we've already taken care of 1. They somehow had all 3 in hand. That's pretty crazy. But, I mean, good to know at least that we won't necessarily have to deal with it. They still have 2 untapped runes that might be a little bit scary to have to deal with. And this is the conundrum that we are finding ourselves in as well. They don't necessarily have any hidden abilities or things like that. So we could go Master Yi if we need to. And be able to probably take the other ability. But they're going to go ahead and go to 5, then 7, and then bring us down to 4 in that case with Ahri. So we need to go ahead and play Blitzcrank first before. And now the nice part is, even if he has a counter in his hand, we're perfectly fine because there's not going to necessarily be any answers that they have in this case because it is a unit ability or a champion ability in this case, not a spell. And that's one thing that's really interesting as well, is that you're not necessarily playing, where everything is a spell like in Magic the Gathering. Units and champions have different abilities that cannot be countered in this case, which is something that's really interesting with this kind of dynamic. And so something that I really like about this. So we're able to take out the Ahri, which is awesome. Blitzcrank is also able to live and survive. Then on top of that, we're going to also be able to activate and ready up 4 runes, which can be very helpful in this kind of environment, especially where Ahri could try to attack in this case, or if they try to go ahead and do really any kind of reaction or anything like that, then we can buff our unit, or we can even counter something that they might be trying to play with a spell. And of course, next turn, we're going to have Blitzcrank for the other Ahri, and we have the boosts ability to be able to do the same thing again if we so choose. And so kind of an interesting dynamic that we have going on for us right now, and something that we need to keep in mind. And so he is going to be going ahead and taking that. We're perfectly happy with that. That's not necessarily a big deal for us. It all depends on having 6 cards in hand. That is something that is a little bit worrisome here. And so we're going to be trying to look into what we can do with that as well. Now, this is going to be interesting as well, and something that I'm kind of surprised by, that he chose to accelerate what's his name again? You know what I mean. He chose to accelerate but not utilize. And that was an interesting choice because you're going to be able to clear out a battlefield, or at least you would hope so. It'd be 6-6 in that case. I still would have a response though, but then you would at least be able to clear out some of my runes in this case and potentially be able to rebuild your board a little bit more. But again, we don't know what's in our opponent's hand in this case. And so yeah, we're just going to go ahead and get Blitzcrank. Now, the biggest thing that we're going to do is pull the Echo over, because the last thing that we want is for them to have their readied runes on their turn, just sending him in. And of course, we're going to be able to keep Blitzcrank happy here and alive, more so. And that's going to also protect the Sona so that we get things going again. And I think at this point, they just surrender at this point. So, yeah. I mean, having 4 runes that are activated, not much that you can do about the Blitzcrank. I mean, just really happened to shut down the Ahri in this case, which is awesome. And we can even play our Poro in this case, and then still ready up our runes to be able to play any activations. And then even if our Blitzcrank ends up dying, he's going to be pulled back to base with the Hourglass, and then we're able to utilize him on the next turn as well with the Poro. So really fun stuff right there, and really great gameplay. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and if you do have any comments or anything about about how my gameplay was, or anything that I could do better, go ahead and let me know down in the comments below. Always happy to hear the feedback, because I need it. Definitely still learning the game, but absolutely love where Riftbound is going here, and excited to see what's going to be happening down the line as well. Gen Con is going on right now. Very exciting to be able to see. Again, though, don't buy necessarily into the hype of all of that as well. Don't go online and buy the tester deck. Just have a little bit of patience. You're going to be waiting maybe a month or 2, but you're still going to be able to go ahead and get things going with that. That's a little tidbit for you. But go ahead, guys, and let me know down in the comments below which legend you're most looking forward to playing as well. And until next time, guys, have a good one.